Welcome to the second annual Midwest Innovation and Entrepreneurship Summit, hosted by College of DuPage and Innovation DuPage. DuPage is home to Fortune 500 companies, 19 colleges and universities, 2 national labs, and a thriving entrepreneurial ecosystem. Whether you are a startup with an established firm, an educator teaching the entrepreneurial mindset, or someone dedicated to economic development, reach out to us. Let's connect to advance this work. Thanks for watching. The Midwest is a place where we get things done together.
Got a great conversation coming up here in a bit. Kind of the world of clean energy, fintech, advanced manufacturing, really where we're going here in the 21st century of what our world will look like, how it will operate, how money moves around, and the future of manufacturing in a world of 3D printing, AI, and all other sorts of stuff. And really, I appreciate everyone has been great. We've had some amazing questions at the end of these panels. I know these can be long days between keynotes and panels, but I appreciate everyone digging deep, and hope it's been a beneficial day for everyone in attendance today. And really appreciate the College of DuPage staff, everyone making sure the rooms have been clean, all the food that's been delivered, and the Innovation DuPage folks for having us here today. So let's move on to our last panel of the day before we have one more keynote address. To my left, Mijo Vodopić. I didn't ask you how to say your last name before we started. Did I get it?
Close enough. Vodopić.
Vodopić, Croatian.
You got it.
Mijo, very good. Senior Program Director of the John D. Catherine MacArthur Foundation. Nick Howard is here, owner CEI of Bantix Technology. And over there, I can't quite see. There we go. I'll lean on over. Patrick Osborne, President, Technology and Manufacturing Association. Mijo, start with you. I'm going to do 30 seconds or so for each of you, just to kind of introduce yourself to our team here today.
Sure, thank you. And it's great to be here and to join you all in this conversation today. Again, my name is Mijo Vodopić. I'm with the John D. and Catherine T. MacArthur Foundation, based here in Chicago. It's one of the largest philanthropies here in the U.S. and the largest in the Midwest. My role there is I work on the climate solutions team, and my focus is about getting greener and cleaner electrons on the grid. And that's our focus, and I get to work on that here in the U.S. and in India.
Nick?
My name is Nick Howard. I have local companies here, software development companies that focus on financial technology, primarily pricing on futures and stock options. So I'm also a trustee over here at COD, so I'm thankful for them to have me be a part of this, and I look forward to mostly your questions, not so much your questions, but mostly your questions.
Appreciate the honesty. Very good. Patrick?
Hi, Patrick Osborne, President and CEO of TMA, as we're known locally, or the Technology and Manufacturing Association. We represent about 800 manufacturing companies locally, and probably 14 different states we have member companies there too. Primarily small to mid-sized manufacturers, people that make parts that kind of go up into John Deere, into Caterpillar, but advanced machining, CNC machining, 5-axis machining, tool and die, mold making, and AI, and the importance of what that's doing for us locally.
Great. Mijo, we'll start with you. Why the Midwest? What do we have here that you feel like is really part of the future of green energy?
So, all today I've been sitting here thinking about, hearing about AI, quantum computing. Underlying all of that is our grid, is electricity. Without that, we cannot function. Every one of you here as an entrepreneur, I'm sure you got a light switch somewhere in your office and as part of your business, and you depend on when you flip that light switch that it turns on, that you have that energy. And here in Illinois, what this state has particularly positioned itself over these last several years is to be a leader in clean energy. And by that I mean solar, wind, energy efficiency, battery storage, nuclear. These are going to be the technologies for the future that will provide reliable energy, affordable energy, and clean energy. And that's critical for all of your businesses, and it's critical for us as our economy. So one, there's going to be tremendous growth in that sector. And second, as we talk about these data centers, and we talk about the increased need for compute and computing and all the other technology that we're going to be dependent on, there is coming to a point where we will need more generation. And that generation is going to come most fastly, quickly, and efficiently from clean energy, such as solar, wind, and energy efficiency, as well as batteries. So these are why here in the Midwest, in Illinois in particular, we're in a great spot to be thinking about entrepreneurship, particularly in this clean tech sector, and thinking about producing more clean energy here.
Producing it, great. Do we develop a lot of green technology here in the Midwest? Like, would people be surprised how, I mean, look, when I think about developing new technologies, I'm thinking Silicon Valley. Are we a Silicon Valley here in the Midwest of our own? Are we creating those technologies, or are we just using them?
Well, you're going to hear from Nick about more of the creation, I think, but I think on our front, when it comes to clean tech, certainly energy efficiency, particularly when we think about how we clean our water and produce clean water, that's super important. And we're also leaders when it comes to EVs. That's another piece of this larger clean tech transformation that's going on in the Midwest.
When we think about clean energy too, I know Innovation DuPage has done a lot of work and initiatives to try and work with as many and give as many leg ups as they can to people that utilize or create green technology. But every business can kind of think of green tech with what they're doing, or renewable energies, or just being cleaner. We had one of the companies came on that Dan Ficini brought on last time, was a woman who does vintage clothing, and she finds and curates collections of vintage clothing. And while that in and of itself doesn't seem that clean, it is the reuse of technology. I think that there's an angle for everyone to take part in some sort of clean energy revolution here.
At a base level, everyone can be more energy efficient. And that's not just the electricity you use in your business, but you think about the materials you use, you think about the services you use. It is more of a mindset. And that is what I think when I think about Innovation DuPage or some of the speakers I've been hearing today, it's a change in mindset and thinking about being more sustainable.
Do most local leaders in this state have that mindset? Because so much of this is going to have to be private-public partnerships, right? To develop this technology, to implement this technology, you need leaders who buy into the value of that technology. Does that exist here?
It does. We heard from the governor earlier today, and just in the last 5 years, you've had the Clean and Equitable Jobs Act passed here. You've had the Clean and Reliable Grids Act passed here. There's a stacking of policies that is coming from the state, and that's built on what folks need here in the region as well as across the state, and the policymakers are responding to that.
Let's and we'll get more on green technology, of course, from your questions too. Nick, I want to get you involved in here too. Fintech. It's a buzzy word that a lot of people don't quite understand, maybe myself included. Kind of the guts of the finances is how I think of it, right? I mean, I used to need a broker to buy stocks, and that may not be the case anymore. I used to need a brick and mortar to bank, and I may not need that anymore. I used to get paid with, well, I never got paid with cash, but a check, but that's not the way it works anymore. What about fintech excites you? What are you and your companies doing to really usher in a new world of finance? That's a loaded question, by the way.
No,
sorry.
there's a lot there. I think anybody that knows me knows I'm not a huge fan of buzzword type stuff, right? So I happen to be in the fintech space, but that just happens to be that the primary basis of our software is financial based, right? So we're dealing with the markets and the data coming from the markets. But the fin is really can be applied to any data that you have within your companies, right? So I think that's the point that, if that question came up, is the point I really want to get across. You know, oftentimes people will hear fintech and they'll back off and they go, well, I'm not an MBA in finance, or I'm not this, or I'm not good with numbers. The reality is, if you have a manufacturing company, and I think one of my favorite examples, which is similar to something I wanted to talk about just with everybody that's in the room, is when Dr. Lodogno talked about the Cuban bakery, right? It's as basic as it gets, right? It's food stuff, it's ingredients, it's what they're measuring, it's what they're using to run their business. Everybody here has data. So the fin and technology is not just financial data, it's, we'll call the fin the numbers, right? So it's whatever numbers that you have that can be applied or bettered with technology, or make your decision making that much easier. So I think that's the first thing to sort of take away is to, you know, we use agentic, right? Us that are in it know what that means. We, you know, hallucination, we use all those terms, but the reality is you just have to overcome them, and they really are relatable once you are comfortable with what that definition is. So let's call fintech data technology and stuff like that. So the kind of things we're doing, we've been. It was sort of an accidental tourist type of thing. How we started. We started out as a consulting company. The other thing I really wanted to make sure that we mention is, everybody here who's coming from a specific company, and just like Dr. Ladonia, I'm a huge fan of Dr. Ladonia, by the way. So I just want you to know that you have a domain expertise that you're applying. So you're applying your fin to that domain, right? And then use technology to strengthen what you have available there, right? So I just happen to have some domain expertise in the markets. I was on the floor at the Mercantile Exchange for many years. So, this company does exist without that domain experience. And I don't use the term expert at all. It's experience, right? So you all have experience, some of you are expert, but you all have something to apply within your individual entities that's going to really let you live in that fintech space. But what's going on, and I can talk all day with a microphone in my hand, but I'll try to be brief about it. The big thing that's happening now is just in that space has to do with, everybody's heard of, or you might have heard of, the prediction markets and the Kalshi and all that kind of stuff. You're seeing a lot of the traditional places where trading has taken place moving into these prediction markets, right? And it's a little bit of it's a cloudy place for me, because the message from all the bigger places is that we help it's to hedge the commodities that exist within our everyday usage, right? But all of this short-term, we're going to call it betting. That's the big thing that's happening if we look at it purely from the space that I'm in, the trading and the finance and the data and that type of thing. So know that there's no winner yet. A lot's going to happen still, but the important thing that I would say about that is, like, what helped us was having something we were good at doing, and then creating something that we thought other people would find useful as well. Everybody here has something like that. So you build things within whatever companies you have, no matter what the size is. We're a small company. We build things that we think other people will use, and I think that if you think from that standpoint, you will benefit, because if you're benefiting, somebody else will.
Yeah, I placed a couple bets on what I thought would happen to the State of the Union, because you can do that now. You can do anything now.
I'm sure a few people placed bets for it to go long.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I made good on that one. Not a couple other bets I made. It's an exciting space. It's kind of a weird space. It doesn't feel quite right, but I don't know if it's any different than options trading. It's just a more democratized opportunity for people to play along. But I guess the question is, where does that intersect with the shaping of events as much as predicting of events too? I don't know. There's a lot there.
Yeah, I think that's a great point, actually, because when it comes right down to it, when you take betting information, you can diffuse it down into the same sort of probabilities and odds. I mean, they come across as probabilities and odds and lines and stuff like that, but the markets are the same thing. They just happen to use fancier terms for those similar functions. And to me, again, I would tilt myself more towards the negative in a lot of things. People use technical analysis, and does technical analysis work because people use it, or do people use it because it works, right? And I think that some of these prediction markets, the thing that scares me about it is it's just a glut of sort of unnecessary processing, energy, information. I mean, there's tens of thousands of new things that come across, and it's a lot to process, it's a lot to store, that kind of stuff. So I think that that time will tell whether people are manipulating it or whether it's legitimate, or is somebody at the next Super Bowl gonna hold that note extra long,
right,
so they can go over 2 minutes and 1 second, right? So it's going to be interesting.
Right. If I'm a press secretary, am I going to say a word that they didn't think I was going to say, that the betting odds were there?
It's easy to do.
Right. So, I could go on for hours about that. Yeah. When I hear the word like manufacturing, Patrick, I think we think of like 1955 manufacturing. Let's save manufacturing. When I think of advanced manufacturing, are we talking about, what are we talking about? Why don't you give us a little bit about what you do? What are these tools that you use that are quite different than we used back in the day?
Well, back in the day, it was more about manual machining processes, and somebody as old as me, I don't know much about CNC, computer numeric controls, and the programming that goes into these state-of-the-art machine tools today. But back in the day, it was more about you know, you'd graduate, you come out of high school, you go to trade school, you learn the math, you learn the processes about how to make these machine tools, cut these pieces of steel, and then all of a sudden, we were introduced to CNC and the concepts that these machine tools were able to do, and it just almost eliminated overnight manual machining. It's still there, they still use them, but the machine tools are so complex, so computer focus driven that you can actually walk up there with the skill. It shifted, it changed over to the programming side, whereas the machinist didn't have to do the calculations. Now it was more program focused, that the program could be done offline, sent over to the machine. The machine tool then became a multiple axis machine, 2 axis, 3 axis, 4 axis, where you can put a square block of steel into a state-of-the-art machine, write a program, and the machine tool itself would create a round ball out of that because it's moving on multiple axes. And it created this wonderful space for advanced manufacturing to allow our guys, our members, to become competitive, to be able to accept more jobs, do them faster, become more profitable, and it was just a wonderful time for manufacturing globally. I mean, we have global machine tool manufacturers up, and this is they call it Machine Tool Alley, but you've got your Mazaks, DMG Moriseki's, Haas. They're all here, and they're all here for a reason. But what we're talking about today, to be quite honest, when you talk about AI, and I'm trying to wrap my arms around it and really what it can do, and it's like, boy, can it really do it? And if it does, it's even elevating what I was just talking about into the next degree.
What skill sets are big right now for people that enter advanced manufacturing?
Programming is the big thing, and you know, workforce development, skill sets, training and education, workforce development, apprenticeship programs, they're all kind of buzzwords and very, very important to what we do here locally, as well as throughout the rest of the United States. But the buzzwords are going to be programming, multiple level offline programming, students that are familiar with, you know, we always go after the gamers now because it's almost like a computer game. Mm-hmm. So for them to be able to sit down, to be able to write a program, I mean, they've just elevated their salary to add another digit into it, and it's true, because if they can program something that used to in the old days take, you know, weeks and months, if they can do it now in days and hours, it just increases the bottom line for the employer, or if they're shop owners themselves.
We talk a lot at WGN about, there's my plug, about a lot of people call in and say, I don't want to send my kids to college, it's too expensive these days. These 4-year degrees are not necessary anymore. The trades are great opportunities for young adults to not take on debt, start working at 18, maybe develop their own companies one day. And I don't think there's anything untrue about that. I went to school at University of Illinois. I don't know if it actually contributes at all, really all much to what I do, but it made me, I think, a broader person. That's a quick aside. But I guess what I'm asking you with the future of manufacturing, that all sounds like stuff I have to go to college for. Is it? Or are there a lot of skills, trade, jobs still that can be applied into your field?
Absolutely. And I didn't get a chance to really introduce my association, TMA. We're local, but we're in 14 different states, but the bulk of our members are around the greater Chicagoland, O'Hare area. And one of our storied programs is a related theory. It's called Apprenticeship Program, and it's been around since the 50s. We're a 100-year-old association. Our apprenticeship program is second to none, and our employers know the value of that, because the students who come to them, when they can find them, they'll hire them, and then they'll send them to TMA. They'll work full-time during the day, and at nighttime they'll come to TMA, where they'll learn those skills, those advanced skills. And we've had to adapt over the years, because it's not just the math, the blueprint reading, which is still important, but now it's about the CAD and the CAM, computer-aided design, computer-aided manufacturing, and what those tools are able to do in conjunction with an advanced CNC machine, which could be, $500 million, and to put somebody from high school with limited training in front of a machine like that, it's mind-blowing, really, when you stop and think about it. But we have the talent locally to be able to train these students to be able to go into careers like that. The problem is finding these young people to come into these careers in manufacturing.
Yeah, for sure. I asked you a little bit about why the Midwest is great for clean tech. I didn't have a chance to ask you guys. What makes this area great? Is it the people, the institutions, the public-private partnerships? I'll start with you, Nick, if you want to talk about Fintech or sorry, you called it something else, data, tech,
Well,
whatever you want to call it.
Numbers. Yeah.
Numbers.
Whatever you want to call it. I won't have too much to say necessarily on the clean tech part of thing. I just know based on my association with the college, just all the opportunities that are available to any student or young adult or somebody who's looking to retool and be part of this industry. And I think to bring in some of the prior speakers and talk to your point about where you're going to find these people. I mean, our local educational opportunities for manufacturing, for the trades, all that type of thing is really second to none, at least at a minimum in Illinois, right? So there's plenty of resources, right? And there's plenty of opportunity for that. And the thing to remember, and again, I'm always talking about the energy side of the AI piece, right? Because that's really the part that everybody sort of, sweeps under the rug or doesn't think about. So when you go generate an image of your whatever you want to do with 4 arms and 3 legs and whatever, that costs money to do, right?
It's energy and water.
Yeah, energy and water.
Fresh water. So that's really important for us here.
So those kind of things, I'm very cognizant of that, right? And I think people generally should, right? So the practicality of what you're going to use from an application standpoint, you should be, there's a type of meditation that you can do that if you get a plate of food, you should think about everybody that was required to get you that plate of food at that time. So before you're generating that silly image, think about what it takes to get that image. Who's going to manufacture whatever it is, the racks to go in the buildings to house the computers that that people provide to get the energy there. So these guys are going to be better suited to answer that question. But for me, it's like I think that the fact that this has had a theme of AI and energy and that type of thing, the AI is just sort of the tip of the iceberg. Everything that comes into play is way below the surface that we have to think about as well. Energy being, to me, the primary one, right? So you talk about the clean energy, but there's been talk in Illinois about the reinstatement of the small nuclear facilities and stuff like that, right? So all those type of things are educational opportunities, and they don't build themselves, right? They have to be built. So for me, this all comes into play.
Well, then on water usage, I mean, this has been a hot topic about now municipalities that were going to welcome a center that would, data center, not anymore. They want to shy away from it. We've written stories about the Great Lakes as being this great freshwater resource. Well, how much water are we really using? I mean, these are all legitimate questions people have to ask. It's a tug and pull, I'm sure. And some of the answers you'll get is that, well, this technology is going to the AI is going to find ways to save water in the long run. I mean, where do you land on using our natural resources to build this technology?
Well, I would say, you asked earlier what makes us distinct here. And one of the things that does make us distinct as a region, not just nationally but globally, is our freshwater resources. So we do need to be thoughtful about that. Now, there is going to be, I'm not one to say, how many data centers are going to be built or not, and whether and where they should be. There's a lot more. That's one of those multivariate conversations that I think Dr. Eastman walked us through. But we do need to be mindful about those, because those are going to be constraints that local communities will have to face. Particularly on energy. The water is maybe a more of a difficult question I'm not as well versed on, but I do know about energy. And right now, going from just in the last 2 to 3 years, our capacity market, and those of you who may not know, you think of ComEd, that's where our grid is. But really, our grid extends all the way from northern Illinois all the way to New Jersey and to the mid-Atlantic states. We're part of something called the PGM grid. There's several of these throughout the U.S., and we're part of this one. And it's one of the ones of all the places in the U.S. that's going to see one of the highest growths in data centers, not just here in the Chicagoland region, but throughout that region that I just described. And that is driving up prices for electricity right now. It went from, for a megawatt hour a day, from $28 just 2-3 years ago to now over $300 for this latest auction. Those are prices that you as businesses are going to have to absorb, that your customers are going to have to absorb, we as institutions are going to have to absorb. So the point that, Nick, you're making, there's already a big push on our electricity demand here. And that's one of the reasons why we think renewable energy in particular has such a great opportunity to come online and meet that growing demand.
If I could just jump in, and from a manufacturing standpoint, the energy is absolutely huge. It's the second biggest expense for manufacturers, and if we don't address that now, if we don't fight that down in Springfield, if we don't come up with good, equitable solutions, we're going to start driving manufacturers out of this great state. And you had asked that question, I didn't get a chance to talk about why here, why locally. It's it's the infrastructure, it's the access to university graduates, it's the workforce, which goes way back to the German immigrants when they were coming over back in the 50s, 60s, and the skills that they brought over here. And that's still here. You just don't see it as much. Mergers, acquisitions, it's the small mom and pop shops are going away, and we're getting, the PEs are kind of a big problem for some of our members too. So we're looking at that constantly. But if we don't address all of these things together collectively from the state, it's just we're going to see a mass exodus. That's one of the biggest fears for us.
I mean, really, they are all interconnected industries in many ways. I mean, they are really the future of how we'll do business. It used to be, paper and finances instead of digital financing, of course, and people instead of machinery in terms of advanced manufacturing, and then oil, and now it's renewable energy sources. We have about 18 minutes left, so I do want to open it up. We've been pretty heady with our conversation, so please ground us a little bit with your questions as it relates to your businesses. We have a question there. People with the microphones will start coming around, and whoever gets there first wins. So I think we're there.
So my name is Saad. I am a quality professional associated with American Society for Quality and work with big companies, energy, manufacturing. One big comment, as Patrick mentioned, and I really need to know, I'm trying to work with Illinois Manufacturing Extension Partnership, which is NIST group, and Illinois Manufacturing Association, regarding AI with quality, which we call it Quality 4.0 through ASQ, American Society for Quality. But unfortunately, get no support from any of those. So really, I want to talk to TMA today. And because AI in quality is big, whether it's the visual inspection, whether it's generative AI to do your audits. So that is one thing which will definitely need it for Illinois to compete. Otherwise, as you said, Patrick said, manufacturers will be non-competitive. They will close the shops here. So quality needs to be addressed in Illinois, and which we call it like Quality 4.0, which is AI in quality. So that's fine.
Thank you for that. If I can just take a moment. Quality is a huge, huge part of manufacturing, and AI, when we start introducing the newer concepts and being able to identify defective parts quicker, that we didn't have those skills and processes in place before. AI is going to transform it, and it's going to be massive. It is hard to get traction with some of the bigger groups. Like I said, we're local, 800 manufacturing companies. That represents 35,000 lives in manufacturing, and I'd love to have a chat with you afterwards, and we've got some great ideas, and I appreciate you bringing it.
Hi. 1955 you mentioned as kind of the old way of working, but a lot of these, as you probably know, a lot of the tier 2, 3, 4, 5 small shops, a couple employees, a couple machines, a couple polishing, buffing, whatever. How do you see AI accelerating that automation? Because it's going to be necessary. The primes are going to demand more. We're going to need more parts coming through. Like, how do you guys see the future of that?
I don't see it as much with the older Bridgeports, and I mean, yes, for calculations, it's going to help, complex calculations that you'd have to sit down and trig it out, and you won't have to do that anymore. The way I see it really kind of getting into smaller shops is the complex CAM programs, the CAD programs, where you have to sit down and start from scratch. I think AI is going to start using models that exist already. You can pull it out of the cloud, put it into your desktop, and all of a sudden you have something that, you're 50, 75% of the way already done. A little bit of tweaking, you get up to 80, 90%, and then, prove it out for the last 10%. So with the smaller shops, I think that's going to be key, because like I said, they can't find the talent. They can't find the youth to come in, study, train, get them up to speed fast. Apprenticeships are wonderful, but they still take 3, 4, 5 years, and most young people aren't prepared to do that anymore, and it's just educating them on what's available out there. I mean, the wonderful careers in manufacturing. I came up through it myself, an apprenticeship, got out of it when things went bad with manufacturing in America, came back to it again, and I'm really glad that I did.
Well, how do we get younger people into it? Are we having conversations at local college of DuPage, high schools? At what level do we need to start in attracting this talent?
So from the TMA standpoint, I've been there for 14 years. Dark secret, I was an apprentice at TMA 30 plus years ago. Went through the program for a while and then kind of got out and went back to college for a while. Fast forwarded, came back, resurrected a training program that was dormant, and we're off to the races. We're doing wonderful things, rebuilding that program. I got a chance to take over the association, and I think that the skills that I developed as an apprentice tool and die maker just stud to me, and I was really, really proud of that and able to do that. Younger people, we have competitions through TMA where we send blueprints out to local area high schools. The CTE programs are really, really, it's a big challenge, and for TMA right now, we're down in Springfield, we're fighting a bill that takes away a language requirement for students to graduate and gives them the option to be able to go take a CTE class. That's huge. That's something that we're doing on a grassroots level to be able to fight down in Springfield on behalf of small, medium-sized manufacturers.
I mean, so many people call in saying, I want to get my kids into the trades. Are they just saying no? I mean, I think
a lot of parents are.
that's what I mean. Yeah.
I'll never say that because I came up through them. My wife might say that because she's a little bit different. I have a son that actually came through COD, and he is now, after working 2 years under the tutelage of a man in this room who runs a great program in HVAC, he's now at a union downtown. Just passed his boiler test and couldn't be happier.
Yeah, the diversification too of who's coming in the ranks is important too. Go ahead, Nick.
Yeah, no, I have a comment about that.
Please.
I think what we're struggling with in the message, right, is because when everybody hears AI, all they're hearing is the end result of what that's supposed to be, right? The tech implementation part of it. But we talk about it at the college all the time. That whole stack exists, right? From we talk about the energy again, from the energy to the creation of the location where the computers are, to the power lines, to the construction, to the HVAC to cool. Shout out to Bob Clark to cool, the data centers. So the part, at least in here, we're from Glen Ellen. I think the part that we have to talk to our kids about is we have to get them to understand that, everybody goes, the first thing you talk about is how much money can I make is usually the typical expectation of these kids going to college. And the reality is, when you start to look at the trades are going to have a higher starting price once you've been trained. It's 3 years, I get it, but it's not that long.
And you're paid during the
and you're paid during.
Every 6 months, you kind of get a step up.
And that's and that's the thing people don't recognize is like while you're getting trained, you're getting paid. And my pops was an electrician, I was an electrician's apprentice, so I come from that background, so I really have an affinity for it and I feel for it. But we have to get that message out, is that if you're looking for a good lifestyle, if you're looking for a good way to live, if you're looking for great hours, right? All those things come into play, and that message has to be. But we got to start with the high schools, and even before that, the high schools give the message: you got to go to college, you got to go to college, you got to go to college.
And I think it's really important to get to the parents too. If you can convince the parents, and that's really the bottom line, because that's the checkbook. They're stroking the checks for the big 4-year universities, whereas the other kid has probably gone to trade school, and by the time they finish their apprenticeship, it's night and day.
Well, part of this is just going to change naturally, right? I think because when I graduated in 02 in Downers Grove South, Woot, and me and my two brothers, we were going to college. There was no other discussion of that. We were going to a 4-year college, right? And that was what we just had to pick. We had to pick which one we went. We all did that, and and that was just the expectation. Now, even right now, we're seeing 22-year-olds get out of college, not only in debt, and that's a story that's been written many times, but the jobs that they originally went into do not exist anymore. And so some of this might just be the passage of time, right? I mean, as we start to see more and more 22, 23-year-olds with 4-year degrees finding jobs that don't pay anywhere near what they're going to be able to pay off their college loans, that unfortunately might be the mechanisms in which things change.
And I think it's pretty easy to convince the students. And I always say, go to a high school and show a student within 6 months of starting an apprenticeship, they can have this Mustang. You got them right away.
Yeah. Do you want to jump in here too, Edmund?
Well, I was just going to say, one of the other big growths is in clean energy development, be it wind or solar, and these are often touted as trades. Maybe you're not working in a factory, but you are learning a certain skill set, and those are really well-paying jobs. And I think this is where, to your point about, I think there is this natural evolution that this is why it's important for us to engage places of learning, thinking about workforce training, and thinking about ways to educate and show many students and young people all the different opportunities that do exist now. There may be some jobs that aren't there anymore, right? There's nobody there growing hay to feed horses or whatnot, but there is now some tremendous ways to be thinking about making good money in developing, let's say, wind farms as one example.
Okay. Any other questions? Yep, go ahead. We got two back there. We'll go 1, 2.
This is for MacArthur Foundation. But first, John, fantastic job today.
Oh, thank you.
as
Appreciate that.
usual. When you said energy efficiency, my name's Lance Rock. When you said energy efficiency and only energy efficiency, what are you doing to help that industry? I understand wind and everything, but it's kind of a generic, right, word almost, energy efficiency. What are you doing there?
You're right. It is a broad term, and in this regard, what we talk about is that energy. That's your first energy source that you have. Before you even start thinking about developing any new energy sources, you need to be thinking about how are we best using what's originally available. And so in that regard, what we feel like the narrative we try to share is that helps us talk to businesses, to governments, to other places that use a lot of energy, and asking them, okay, what's the technology that you could be doing? What are the measurements? What are the different types of controls? Right? There's a whole set of technologies that are available for businesses to improve their energy efficiency without compromising the quality of their product or services. So that's in that regard, we try to be helpful in promoting energy efficiency.
And Lance, I've interviewed on WGN. His company tinkers with HVAC systems and other systems that are already existing to get the airflow correct and everything correct, and to lower and high up the energy efficiency inside of buildings. It's fascinating stuff. If anyone wants to chat with him afterwards, by the way, it's great stuff.
So when you said you go to the companies, is it educational, or do you actually have ability to make things happen as far as make them in legislation? What do you do?
No, so we do not, we are a private foundation based here, and so we do not engage in any lobbying or any type of political activity. What we do is we support a whole range of organizations to help promote these types of ideas so that the general public, business leaders, others can appreciate the value that comes from these technologies, from the businesses that you provide and services you provide, that people can make those right decisions for themselves.
Yep. And we'll go back there.
So Walter Johnson, in full disclosure, I'm part of the leadership here at the College of DuPage. I often hear, and I heard a little bit today, that part of the challenge that students have is their parents who pay the bill aren't necessarily looking at community college or College of DuPage as the first option. But as an 18-year-old, a lot of those 18-year-olds are really challenged with paying their own bill. And those who are looking to retool are absolutely paying their own bill. So the question is, how do community colleges, how does COD connect with the industry in such a way that we can collectively create the resource that allows for us to help grow the market that you are trying to tap into? The scholarships, the internships, the funding that allows that 18-year-old to say, you know what, I am going to go into the trades, because even though I have to have a little skin in the game, there is funding here that makes this an affordable option. How do we grow that in a way that it makes sense for you all to invest in it?
If I may, I think community colleges are an absolute diamond in the rough. I'm a huge fan. I got a 2-year degree from the University of River Grove, otherwise known as Triton College, and got my 60, worked in industry, got my 60, transferred, got my bachelor's, and then onto a master's. And without those stepping stones, without that scaffolding approach, I wouldn't have been able to do it. I still think it's wonderful, and I don't want to get into my son who came to COD and did the HVAC program. Best price in town for me, as the parent then, having to stroke that check versus my wife, my daughter who's down at Loyola, and I'm still paying for that. But the skills that he picked up here, absolutely amazing. I'm going to say a couple more things now that you may not like. I think in order for you to do what you just said, and I love what you just said, and I talked to your president about this earlier, it's all about partnerships, collaboration, and I'm going to tell you, with a local trade association. And I think we're one of the best kept secrets around locally. Like I said, 800 local manufacturing members. They come to me for training and resources, and they come to the College of DuPage for resources as well. We have got to do a better job collaborating, talking, planning, opening up what we have, opening up what you have, figuring out the financial piece, and then coming together and working with the parents and the students to be able to create world-class programs. This is still a phenomenal, phenomenal state to do. It's getting harder and harder to do business in Illinois, but it's still a great place because of the transportation systems we have, the great access to great minds and universities and colleges. Like I said, workforce. When I started 14 years ago, we partnered with 9 high schools in manufacturing for a competition. We have 24 high schools now. It just grows year after year, and you wouldn't believe the amount of schools that now have machining programs and CTE programs. So it's growing, it's changing, it's a paradigm shift, and it's underway. And you guys are in a COD, a phenomenal position with that great lab, all the great labs that you have here, to be able to tap into the resources.
I think a great way to wrap things up too is to, and do we have one more question? Yeah, let's go ahead and ask one more question before I ask my wrap up.
Patrick, this question is to you, sir. My name is Patrick, and I'm representing the New American Legion in Downers Grove. Our charter now is to aid the military that is desperately looking for young candidates that are not intimidated by technology. Every platform in the military now is all technology driven. After they come out and we help them there, my question to you, sir, is do you see the young candidates that don't want to go to college being a potential employment group for you?
Oh, absolutely. And I'm not here to bash college in any way, shape, or form. I think college is wonderful. We just like to give options. We want to show people options. We do tours all the time. We show the students what a manufacturing facility looks like. I was going to go back to 1950. I'll go back to 1990, 2000s. It was a little bit darker, dirtier back then. Right now, it's polished floors, super bright lights, state-of-the-art equipment and machinery. We're doing medical work, we're doing defense work, agricultural, automotive. The amount of things in the world that are manufactured would actually blow your mind, and students just don't know that. So absolutely, we just got to get to them. We've got to educate them. We've got to do a better job with that education piece too, showing them what's out there.
Yeah, there's also just such a rush at 18 to have it all figured out. And I think that leads to a lot of people doing the 4-year route or trying to do it because that's where they'll figure it out. Whereas taking some time, going to a community college for a year or two can often help you in those 2 years where, of course, you're not going to know what you're doing necessarily to sort that out. I know I felt that pressure at 18. Now, what are you doing? What are you going to figure it out? And the kids do today, too. I know our time's up. Just really quickly, what excites you, 1, 2, 3, most about the world in which you work in right now? What gets you out of bed in the morning and you go, this is exciting. I'm looking forward to tackling this today.
What gets me excited is the real potential that we have here locally to become a leader when it comes to, a global leader when it comes to developing and using clean energy.
I'd say from my standpoint, it's just the wealth of data that's being generated on a daily basis that we're able to, consume and help visualize and help people utilize as part of their, profession.
For me, I think it's just connecting with younger people, trying to get them excited about coming into the trades, showing them the wonderful opportunities that exist in manufacturing. But on the flip side of that, the people who could be career changers, that want to change careers, that are working in service industry jobs, not making a good living, to connect with them and to show them the potential, the possibilities of working in a manufacturing facility in Illinois.
That's a great point. We focus on 18-year-olds, but there's a lot of people looking for a new, fresh start. That's where we'll leave it here today. I'm sure these guys are welcome to answer some questions off the stage. Thank you, gentlemen. That was great. That was a lot of information. Thank you.